Guys, welcome back. So we thought we'd have a little bit of fun today with an iron fit with Matt. And different people, when they come into TXG, have different objectives. Some people come in specifically looking to hit it as far as they possibly can. Maybe, you know, they've lost some distance over the last few years, and other people will come in and they'll be specifically looking to hit their irons a very specific distance and really gain that distance control. So, you know, we have different tasks, and you know, our customers provide us with whatever they're looking for, and it's up to us to help them achieve that.
So part of the inspiration for the video was the longest driver versus most accurate driver is actually our second most popular video.
Yep.
I think the discussion in it was just interesting to people because the driver fitting process for most people is, I want to go get fit and hit my driver as far as possible. And I think we did a decent job of giving people consideration that, okay, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe I should try to, you know, get a nice blend of accuracy and distance. And I think iron fitting, maybe to a lesser degree, but still a factor. I think people are going to come in and see you and say, I want to club extra distance. And there's going to be times where that's just not suitable for someone, and there's trade-offs. There's going to be things you lose by hitting your irons further, and there's going to be things you gain by more spin and hitting it more accurately. Yeah,
exactly. There, you know, such as, I think, you know, to that point, round the greens, the modern day iron is designed super quick ball speed. Is designed with super thin face, versus the kind of older iron, which is a little bit more feel based and designed to regulate ball speed to the point where it's quite similar most of the time. So, you know, you would want that around the greens. You know, if you're kind of hitting a 30-yard pitch shot and the ball comes screaming off the face, you know, you're going to have a really hard time controlling and regulating that distance.
Interesting, yeah.
Whereas, you know, something that, you know, nice soft forwards that kind of feels the same all the time, you'll probably get a little bit more consistency with it. So there's balance to everything that we do with regards to club fitting, and really it's trying to give the player exactly what they want.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And the quick discussion we had before we started was, you do get people coming in who are super accurate, and they'll just do anything to hit the ball further. And there are some kind of go-tos, I guess you'd call them, that you set up that we're going to test that are factors in helping them get that extra club of distance. Now, there are drawbacks to that, obviously, and that we're going to test. But I think what we want to do is do kind of exactly what we did with the driver video. You put together a club that you thought I would hit as far as humanly possible with my swing, and then you put together a driver that you thought would be still long, but accurate, hit most fairways. So we're kind of going to do the maximum distance setup, and then do the, I guess, maximum greens and regulation kind of setup.
Exactly.
Something that you'll hit more greens with.
Yep, and obviously, you know, you're someone who will be going into looking for the latter there. You're looking for the control. You're not really looking for the distance. And as we go, we'll talk a little bit to that and some of the downsides of having that extra speed, because as much as it seems like speed is a real blessing and something that, you know, Matt would be really fortunate to have, the other part is, you know, when you've got that amount of speed, it can be quite variable how far the ball goes. So you start adding things like flyers, you know, so a little bit whether moisture or grass or, you know, one of these variables between the face and the ball. All of a sudden, you can fly a green by 20 yards, and then you're in all sorts of trouble.
You're making double in some cases.
Making a quick double. Whereas, you know, if that ball goes the same distance or even a little bit short, you know, at least then you can kind of chip on. You're still in the game, chance of making par.
And I think variability at any ball speed. Obviously, there's more variability the further you hit it. But somebody missing a green by a club, even if they're a slower swinger, and your short game's not that good, I think it's going to punish that person just as much. So I guess I would like to give people sort of the pros and cons of both.
Yeah, and you know, I think what should be nice here is when we actually are able to show, you know, an iron that goes just at a regular distance and an iron that goes a long way. How much can an iron improve your distance?
Yes.
You know, some people might go, well, I actually could do with 20 yards in my irons. You know, I could do one of those irons going into that fifth green at the, you know, sixth hole at my course. You know, I can't do much with that 4-iron. I'd love to hit a 6-iron in there. So maybe that's of value to someone, and
for sure,
you know, I think so many people knock the modern day iron because it's so speed orientated. Sure, there's drawbacks to it, like we're saying, but there are times when people might need that.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say before we test, if you haven't watched the blade versus cavity video and the blade versus game
point.
improvement, I would almost say pause this and go watch it.
Go back and
because I just wouldn't want someone to get hung up on the loft thing, because we've really nicely addressed that, and we're not going to talk about that again because we already have.
Yeah, and this isn't another version of cavity back versus blade, because we're using different shafts.
Yes.
We're going at it from a different standpoint. We're actually using different flexes. So we're using a shaft with the Mura, the Y grind cavity back that we've seen Matt hit a bunch so well. And then we're going to go to the JPX Hot Metal, one of our absolute fastest irons.
Yep.
And we're going to go a little bit longer shaft and softer, something that we might try if someone's looking for distance. And then with the Mura, we're going to go a little bit stiffer and shorter, something that we might do if someone's looking to regulate speed, distance, and be a little bit more consistent.
And I think people are familiar with that concept in driver fitting. I don't think people would be as inclined to say, make my irons longer for distance. I think people think, oh, what's my wrist to floor and how tall am I? Fit my irons. It's actually the first time I've heard of using length in an iron to change distance, maybe club head speed.
And that's the one thing, we just, as one of the variables that can increase distance, we will always, if somebody comes in with that specific request to hit it further, for sure I'll go, okay, this is kind of what roughly I think you should be from a length standpoint, and I'm going to try you one sort of step up,
Increment,
in basically a half-inch increment is
That's
how
the
our
standard?
shafts go.
Yeah.
So in here we've got shafts from 36.5 all the way up to 39. So not in every shaft. So there's certainly the lighter stuff that's maybe for juniors, ladies, that type of thing, and all the way up to our super tall players.
Very cool.
Okay, let's give it a try.
Cool. We're going to go with the Y grinds first.
We're going to go accurate first, then we're going long. Okay, Matt, so we got you into one iron that wasn't going to go quite as far, but we were going to go pretty accurate. And, you were pretty accurate with that one. It was really interesting actually how often you got it to go sort of the same distance. It was around 184, 186, 185 on the carry. Really good. And then obviously the hot metal, which we had squeezed the loft on. And that's the big thing to remember here, guys. The first time when we done blade versus cavity back, we literally were testing a blade versus a cavity back at the same loft, with the same shaft, at the same length. Here we were not doing that. We were making a strong iron. We made the JPX 900 hot metal 26 degrees aloft with a half-inch longer shaft than Matt normally plays, and one flex softer than Matt normally plays.
Right.
Trying to make it go longer. Then with obviously the Mura, we were playing the X7, which is your shaft, standard length, 30 degrees on the loft, so 4 degrees of difference.
Yeah.
So
very traditional loft, the 30 would be.
We were really trying to induce the one to go long and one to go, a little bit more spinny and straight. So here, the results were pretty telling in that we managed to create about a 10 mile an hour separation in ball speed.
It's a ton.
Yeah, an absolute ton. So looking at the efficiency of it, you were swinging it pretty much the same. You were Basically 1.7 miles an hour slower with the short shaft. Makes sense.
Which is about right.
Yeah, if you swing a 7-iron versus a 6-iron, you're going to swing the 6-iron about that amount, maybe a little more in terms of increase in speed.
Yep.
The dynamic loft difference was 3.7 degrees. So again, that represents about the 4 degrees of loft difference that we had squeezed onto. So we were able to get a really nice test out of it. Looking over at the efficiency, obviously, from a ball speed perspective, in terms of how much you were able to get out of the club head speed, you got way more efficiency out of the hot metal.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So interesting. What did you see from your own side, sort of testing it? You felt like you could get a bit more out of the Mizuno, obviously, if you needed to?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think, as you said, there were some shots that maybe weren't great with the Miuras, or they were a little bit heavy, or they're a little bit thin. But as you said, they all kind of seemed to land within 4 or 5 yards of each other.
Right.
And then with the Mizunos, obviously, a really well-struck shot flew a good 10, 15 yards further. But there was a bigger disparity between the best shot and the worst shot, and directionally as well. So the ones that I turned over a bit really turned over, and the ones that I left out to the left a bit, really hung out there.
When we're looking for distance, we sometimes have to sacrifice a little bit of the delivery that creates accuracy. So when I'm looking at this delivery right here, I'm looking at a much more neutral path with the shorter, heavier iron, and a little bit more downward in angle of attack.
Right.
So that's going to definitely help regulate the face and not ask it to rotate as much. When you get that path going a lot more to the left, like yours was, you're asking that club path the club face to rotate more, because you're pushing the path away from the target.
Okay.
So that's why I think, if we go back to the comparison page and we see a little bit bigger dispersion, especially on the right-hand side. The dispersion on the left was quite similar, but the dispersion on the right was different. Yes. It's because we were basically creating a little bit more curvature through rotation of the face.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we were asking for that to happen through going softer, longer, a fraction lighter, all that sort of stuff.
And it makes sense because a lot of people that hit their iron short do so because they're hitting too much of a fade.
Yeah.
So that kind of a design might help them draw the ball a bit better. And the backspin being about 450 lower?
Yep.
That's quite significant.
Quite a lot.
It would probably end up giving someone half a club or something in distance.
Yeah.
But as you say, the less backspin there is, and especially if you're in the rough or not a perfect lie, you're going to get those hot shots that kind of blow through the green and don't hold.
And I think where we sort of, again, going back to trying to help the customer achieve what it is that they came in here to get, we can look at them and go, okay, Matt, you came in here today looking for more distance.
Yeah, sell me those.
We've got, an extra 10 miles an hour ball speed. Your launch is down and your spin is down, but actually your height is up. So, it's not, we were able to get the ball to go further without sacrificing your stopping power, Matt, all that sort of stuff. So by lowering the launch and spin, the one thing you have to get in order to get that height back is velocity. And that's what, if somebody is specifically looking for a bit more distance, we know loft is going to be the primary sort of factor in that, obviously head design a little bit as well. But that's one way in which we would do that.
Yeah, and as you say, if someone doesn't have that or isn't getting the extra velocity, then the lower spin becomes a liability.
Exactly.
Then they start to hit those knuckleballs with a 6-iron that just aren't functional on the golf course.
And that's still, that would still be like that, term of liability, because, that JPX 900, is a liability because it's fast with some spin, but if we add in a bit of a fly or lie or a bit of water or something like that, all of a sudden, honestly, you could hit that 215 6-iron, you could hit that 230, 235.
Because the spin would go down to like 3,000.
Yeah,
I can see that too.
If you scorch one, catch it clean, but you just get that one that just comes out dead and flat, zero control.
Yeah. No, it's interesting how the ball flight, and it's also interesting how the shaft length affected the path of the club.
Change your delivery, and you weren't aware of it. I was
I was
kind of watching that one pan out, and that was
you just do it kind of naturally, I guess, because it felt more like a 5-iron, I guess, to me in length. So something for someone to be aware of. Definitely. I mean, it may actually change your path a bit.
We always talk about, on the channel, being able to influence delivery a little bit with certain clubs. So if we've just influenced your delivery to actually come a little bit more from the inside and rotate the face a little more, Well, if you walk in here as a bit of a slicer and you were able to get that scenario, not always the case, but that's
true.
That's really helpful.
And there's probably a bit of a happy medium with this where I think the extra shaft length was good in a lot of ways. Maybe a weaker lofted iron gives someone a good balance of both. Because we had this conversation with the driver. There was a nice middle ground where you took the advantages of the long, in this case, a longer shaft for a little more speed, but we dial that loft back, that spin comes up a little bit, and it's a more stable ball. So it gives someone kind of a better overall fit versus a maximum distance fit.
Yeah, and that's it. Then this is the kind of situations we're faced with in here on a daily basis. We may have a customer who comes in and goes, just not enjoying losing some distance. Okay, Mr. Jones, no problem. Let's get you some of that distance back, and here's some of the ways we go about it. So, guys, lots of different ways to sort of go about it, and obviously, that's why we have so many tools at our disposal on the shaft wall, in the drawers from a head perspective, because they all have their own characteristics.
Yeah.
And the ability to customize them in the loft and lie machine. We can really come at it from a bunch of different ways. So again, it's whatever you guys want. You guys tell us, we'll give you our input. Between us, I'm sure we'll kind of come to a solution as to what will help you improve your game. Then we get to work.
I know, that's the thing. It's lowering score versus just improving one parameter. Because you would say, likely, I'm not going to shoot a better score with those JPXs. I will hit them further, unless you're the type of person that's shooting a high score because of a lack of distance. That's
it. There's certain greens you can't get onto and to, and your short game's not great. So you're playing into your weaknesses. Then if we can get them up onto the green, but your putting's pretty good, when we start playing to your strengths. Bunch of different ways we can go after it.
Yeah, and I think the only takeaway is just don't always go, give me the longest thing possible.
No,
look for something that will actually benefit your score.
I think that's what most people like is a bit of balance. Actually, probably might be surprised to hear that most people, when they come in for an iron fit, they actually say to me that they don't really care how far they go. They just want to go be consistent.
Really?
Yeah, which is probably surprising, but
it is. Yeah.
One thing I always take into consideration is what is the circumstances? Are we dealing with a customer who's maybe got, let's use an age group here, 63 years old, right? Still, very active, plays a lot of golf 3-4 times a week. Hasn't seen a massive drop off in distance just yet. But in the 5 years that they have these clubs, or certainly that we hope they have these clubs, they may, towards 65, 66, 67, 68, start to see that drop off. So within that time period, they may need a little bit of that distance that we're giving them. So, as I say, every scenario is different, and we can help whichever way the customer needs.
You did that exactly with Steve. He came in with, remind me, they were RSI tour irons, I think. If you're looking for the video, it was the P790 and Callaway Epic.
It was.
And that was the situation where you said the same thing to him. You said in a few years you may start to lose distance. Let's get you a couple.
You may not need it right now, but you may see higher value in it in a few years' time.
So that's a good one to go watch if you haven't seen that one, because it's he got a nice balance of both, I think, in that fit.
Definitely.
Nice.
Interesting, isn't it? So, guys, I hope this has been somewhat valuable, and you're able to see how the different directions the iron fit can go. Some of the ways in which we can influence ball flight to achieve certain goals, whether it be distance orientated or accuracy, or finding that balance of both.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Excellent. Guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.